Barbara Mandrell is here. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'll tell you, Tom, Scott, and all of them, great, just great.
Yeah, they're okay.
Barbara Mandrell's shocking retreat, her mansion, family, and the secrets left behind. Why did Barbara Mandrell walk away from it all? Behind the glamorous life, a massive mansion, and a famous family, there's a story filled with secrets and shocking decisions. What truly happened when the spotlight faded? Stay tuned to uncover the shocking details you never knew. The melody behind the spotlight.
And the winner is, thank God for this little girl, Barbara Mandrell.
Before stadiums chanted her name or records bore her voice, Barbara Mandrell was just a young girl in Texas with an extraordinary ear for music. Growing up in a family where melodies floated through the air like lullabies, Barbara's path into music almost felt predestined. Her father, Herbie Mandrell, was both supportive and strategic, recognizing not just a daughter's talent but a future icon in the making. With his guidance, Barbara didn't just learn to play instruments, she mastered them. By the age of 11, Barbara had become a steel guitar prodigy, a rare feat at any age, let alone for someone barely into adolescence. It wasn't long before her reputation spread. At just 13, she joined the legendary Johnny Cash show tour, sharing stages with names like Patsy Cline and George Jones. She wasn't there as a curiosity or an opening act. She was a force. Whether on the steel guitar, accordion, saxophone, or banjo, she played with the confidence and charm of someone twice her age. Barbara's performances weren't technical displays, they were electric. She could turn a simple tune into a showstopper. It wasn't just her hands that danced, it was her spirit. Audiences didn't just watch her, they were captivated by her. Her talent wasn't about being young and gifted, it was about being exceptional. And that spark she brought to the stage caught fire in the industry. By the 1970s, Barbara had transitioned into singing, crafting hits that would define her legacy. Songs like Sleeping Single in a Double Bed and I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool didn't just top charts. They challenged the norms of a male-dominated country music world. She became one of the few female stars of her time to achieve widespread acclaim, winning back-to-back CMA Female Vocalist of the Year awards and multiple Grammys. But as her professional life soared, a quieter story of devotion and love was unfolding just behind the curtain. Barbara first met Ken Dudney when she was only 14 years old. He was older, already engaged, and completely unaware that this teenage girl would one day become his partner for life. Their meeting wasn't marked by drama or romance, but by a subtle spark, a mutual curiosity, a shared rhythm that quietly connected them. As the years passed and their lives evolved, so did their bond. By the time Barbara turned 18, Ken's previous engagement had ended, and he and Barbara made the choice to build a future together. In 1967, they got married. Barbara was at the start of a skyrocketing career, and Ken was a Navy pilot with a stable path ahead. But he made a decision that surprised everyone. He gave up his military career to support Barbara's journey. It wasn't just love, it was commitment at its most selfless. Ken didn't want to live in her shadow. He wanted to hold up the light that allowed her to shine. He became her tour manager, her strategist, and her protector. While Barbara dazzled under stage lights, Ken handled the chaos behind the scenes, scheduling, security, management. He made sure she could focus on her music while staying grounded in the life they were building together. Their marriage wasn't immune to the pressures of fame. There were long tours, exhausting days, public scrutiny, and moments when the industry felt like a monster that devoured their time and energy. Barbara once admitted that balancing stardom and family wasn't easy, and there were times when she questioned if she could keep doing it. But every time she looked beside her, Ken was there, not as someone demanding the spotlight, but as the one holding her hand through it all. Together, they raised 3 children, Kenneth Matthew Dudney, Jaime, and Nathan. Their family grew not in silence, but in the roar of tour buses and backstage lullabies. Ken helped bring stability to the chaos, making sure that even in hotel rooms and on the road, their children felt at home. Barbara refused to let fame push motherhood to the sidelines, and Ken helped make that balance possible. What made their story even more powerful was its endurance. In an industry known for fleeting relationships and tabloid-fueled splits, Barbara and Ken became an example of steadfast love. Barbara never stopped acknowledging the role Ken played in her success. "I couldn't have done it without him," she once said. He didn't just manage her tours, he helped her navigate life. In 1984, after a devastating car accident left Barbara with serious injuries, Ken once again stepped into the role of caregiver and guardian. The road to recovery was long, painful, and emotionally draining, but together they endured. In 1997, Barbara made the difficult decision to retire from the spotlight, not because the music stopped calling, but because she knew it was time to prioritize her health and family. Ken supported her decision wholeheartedly. They retreated from public life and focused on faith, reflection, and each other. Their life became quieter, but their bond only deepened. For Barbara, stepping away from fame was never a fall from grace. It was a graceful bow, with the man who had always been in her corner standing right beside her. But when the curtain falls, what tune plays behind the fame, and how does a family find harmony in its shadow? Let us tell you. Family life and challenges.
That's nice. And your little one now is... Nathaniel is now 15 months old, and my eldest Matthew is 16. And of course, he's adopted. I couldn't possibly have a 16-year-old. No, he's not. He's mine. And my daughter Jamie is 10.
Growing up as the son of a country music legend, Matthew Mandrell lived a life framed by fame. But his story was never about chasing the spotlight. It was about trying to survive in its shadow. Barbara Mandrell's eldest son was never one to shy away from attention, though not for the same reasons as his iconic mother. Life in the Mandrell household meant living amid constant applause, with the sounds of sold-out concerts bleeding into the walls of their home and the brightness of the media's gaze reaching even the most private corners of their lives. While Barbara dazzled under rhinestone lights with a steel guitar in hand, Matthew quietly observed from the wings, absorbing more than he ever expressed. He wasn't a performer by nature. He was introspective, sensitive, and filled with questions few his age ever dared to ask. The same bright lights that lifted his mother's career cast long, isolating shadows over him. And in those shadows, he would later reveal, he began to feel invisible. Growing up as the son of a country music legend wasn't just about perks and privilege. It was about trying to find your own voice in a house where another's was celebrated by millions. Matthew loved his mother deeply, admired her tenacity and grace, but he often felt like he was supposed to become a certain kind of person, one he didn't recognize in himself. In an interview with People magazine, he reflected, "It's not that I blamed anyone, I just couldn't find my own reflection in the mirror that fame held up for us." His honesty struck a chord. Behind the warm, polished image of the Mandrell household, Matthew was quietly unraveling, weighed down by expectations and overwhelmed by internal battles that no amount of stardom could silence. As a teenager, Matthew grew more withdrawn. His parents noticed, but the fast-paced nature of Barbara's career made it difficult to slow down. "There were moments when I thought he was just being moody or quiet," Barbara later admitted to Country Weekly. "But there was a storm brewing inside him that I didn't fully understand until much later." That storm revealed itself in the form of substance abuse and depression, demons that clung to Matthew even as he tried to push forward. His 20s were marked by rehab visits, therapy sessions, and relapses that left the family shaken. But even then, Barbara and Ken never gave up on him. The Mandrells were not a family that gave in easily to adversity. They rallied around Matthew, offering love, accountability, and space to breathe when the world felt too loud. "I didn't want to be known as the troubled son," Matthew told E! News during one of his rare public appearances. "But at some point I had to stop running from that and start healing." The healing began not in therapy rooms, but in a kitchen. Cooking wasn't something Matthew set out to master. It found him during a particularly difficult stretch in recovery. A rehabilitation center offered culinary training as part of its recovery curriculum, and something about the structure, the creativity, and the peace of the process sparked something in him. "That was the first time I felt grounded," he said. "In a kitchen, things made sense. The chaos of the past faded behind the scent of garlic and rosemary." Matthew threw himself into the culinary arts. What began as therapy evolved into purpose. He trained rigorously, moving through kitchens and climbing his way into respected culinary circles, not as a Mandrell, but as a chef in his own right. His success wasn't built on family fame, but on long hours, calloused hands, and a devotion to mastering his craft. He described his cooking style as honest, a reflection of how he chose to live from that point forward. Though Matthew's path began in shadows, he emerged into his own kind of light. He opened up publicly about his battles, not for sympathy, but in hopes that others might recognize themselves in his journey. In a candid conversation with the Tennessean, he explained, "If someone like me, who had every reason to be okay but wasn't, can get through it, then maybe someone else can too." While Matthew found healing, his siblings walked different paths. Jaime Mandrell gravitated toward hospitality, where her charm and people skills flourished. She managed boutique hotel properties and often used her background to create welcoming, elegant spaces, something she credited to watching her mother handle guests and fans with kindness. Nathan, the youngest, kept to himself and maintained a life far from public scrutiny. He found peace in privacy and rarely made public appearances, allowing his siblings to navigate the world in their own ways. In spite of their differences, the three siblings maintained a strong bond. They were shaped by fame, but not defined by it. Each learned to process the legacy of their mother's success in uniquely personal ways. For Matthew, that meant confronting his pain, rebuilding his life, and choosing authenticity over appearances. Barbara often looks back on her family's journey with heartfelt emotion. "We've walked through both storms and celebrations," she said during a moving segment on the Hallmark Channel. "But seeing Matthew rise above everything he faced, that's one of the most meaningful moments I've ever experienced as a mother." How could a single place capture both the silence of personal struggles and the joy of family togetherness, offering a retreat from the spotlight's glare? The Fontanelle Mansion.
You decorated this house in 3 days?
My girlfriend Kathy Buchek and I decorated in 3 days. We went to High Point, North Carolina during one of the big trade show, whatever they call it, where they show the decorators, the stuff. And I ordered everything and selected all my fabrics.
What did you have in mind?
Before the walls went up or the blueprints were even finalized, the vision was clear in Barbara Mandrell's heart, a space where music faded into laughter, where awards and applause gave way to family dinners, and where the relentless rhythm of her public life could pause, if only for a little while. This wasn't about luxury, it was about refuge. And for Barbara and her husband Ken, it became known simply as Fontanelle. When they broke ground in 1988 on a lush, forested plot in Whites Creek, Tennessee, the goal wasn't just to build a home, it was to build peace. As someone who spent most of her life on the road or in the spotlight, Barbara craved a place where she could walk barefoot, host holiday dinners, and watch her kids run free across open land without being shadowed by flashing cameras or expectations. The Fontanelle Mansion became that place, and then it became something much more. Spanning a staggering 27,000 square feet, Fontanelle was the largest log home in the United States at the time, but that number didn't begin to tell the story. Yes, it had over 20 rooms, 13 bathrooms, a private indoor pool, an elegant spiral staircase, and even an indoor shooting range. But what really set Fontanelle apart was the warmth inside its log walls, the scent of cedar, the echo of piano keys floating through the halls, and the way sunlight filtered through its wide windows gave it a soul. Barbara often said in interviews that the house wasn't designed to impress, it was designed to embrace. She didn't want a museum. She wanted a place where her kids could spill juice on the floor, where Ken could grill steaks out back in the middle of winter, and where guests left their shoes by the door and their worries at the gate. "I wanted my family to feel wrapped up in comfort," she told Southern Living in a rare interview, like the house was giving them a hug. Ken, ever the practical counterpart to Barbara's dreamer heart, focused on the infrastructure. He made sure the house wasn't just beautiful, but livable. He oversaw the layout of soundproof music rooms so Barbara could rehearse late into the night without disturbing the rest of the house. He helped design the security systems to ensure the property felt like a fortress to outsiders but stayed invisible to those within. Fontanelle, in many ways, was their shared project, a love letter written in timber and stone. Their children would come to remember Fontanelle as the backdrop of their childhoods. There was a room filled entirely with games and arcade machines, a favorite for birthday parties. Jaime later reminisced in 2015. "It was the only house house I knew where a snow day felt like a vacation, even if you couldn't leave the driveway. Nathan, the quietest of the three, was known to disappear for hours into the woods behind the home, returning with sticks, stories, or sometimes just a grin. In spite of the fame that constantly hovered around their family name, Fontanelle made them feel grounded. Christmases were extravagant, but not because of gifts. It was about traditions, homemade pies, Ken's famously terrible Christmas karaoke, and Barbara's insistence on wearing the same red apron year after year. That house, she told the Tennessean in 2007, wasn't about the show, it was about the shelter. But as with all things built on dreams, time eventually caught up. By the early 2000s, their children were adults, carving their own paths, and Barbara herself was entering a more reflective phase of life. She had stepped away from the stage, traded gowns for gardening gloves, and begun seeing Fontanelle through a more reflective lens. The halls were quieter now, the echoes of childhood laughter still lingered, but the everyday need for such a large, bustling home had gently faded. In 2002, Barbara and Ken made the emotional decision to sell Fontanelle. Letting go of it wasn't easy, Ken admitted during a sit-down with Country Weekly. It felt like we were closing the most beautiful chapter of our lives, but we knew the story had to move forward. Rather than being sold to a private owner, Fontanelle eventually opened to the public as a cultural landmark. Visitors toured the home, walked the same halls where Barbara once rehearsed, and where Ken poured coffee every morning. They saw her awards, sat in her family's pew-like living room setup, and marveled at how something so large could feel so personal. And through this, Fontanelle transformed again, not just from home to attraction, but from a Mandrell memory to a shared experience. Even after they moved, Barbara kept her connection to the home alive. She would occasionally drop by for special events, surprising fans and revisiting the space that held her family's history. Every time I walk in, she told the Today Show during a segment on country music homes, I feel like the walls remember us. Fontanelle wasn't just a place of living, it was a family diary written in architecture, a place that saw tears, milestones, sibling squabbles, and the quiet moments that never make the headlines. What happens when a family's private sanctuary becomes a public landmark are the memories preserved or lost. From tourist attraction to closure. After the Mandrell family sold Fontanelle Mansion, it embarked on a new life as a tourist destination, quickly becoming a significant cultural hotspot in Nashville. What was once a quiet family sanctuary transformed into a celebrated part of the city's rich music history. This transition marked the intersection of Barbara Mandrell's personal legacy and the broader narrative of Nashville's rise as a music mecca, inviting fans and visitors to experience a piece of country music history in a way that only a place so tied to one of the genre's biggest stars could offer. The transformation of Fontanelle into a tourist destination was much more than a simple business decision. It became a reflection of the Mandrell family's contribution to Nashville's cultural fabric. Visitors who had come expecting a typical historical site or museum were instead met with something far more intimate, a rare, tangible connection to the life and career of Barbara Mandrell. For years, the estate offered a kind of immersive experience, blending her extraordinary music career with the comfort and warmth of family life. The items inside, from stage costumes to musical instruments, told stories not just of a performer, but of a person who had helped shape the very essence of country music. One of the defining features of Fontanelle's time as a tourist attraction was how it preserved the memories of Barbara's career, adding another layer to the allure of the mansion. In interviews with outlets like the Tennessean and Country Weekly, Barbara spoke about the deep personal connection she had to the property and its transformation into a public space. She mentioned how Fontanelle had become a vessel for sharing her story, not merely a business venture. "It's not about us trying to sell something," she reflected in one interview. "It's about giving people a place where they can feel the energy of the music, the same energy we felt when we lived here." This sentiment resonated with many fans who visited the mansion, eager to step into the world of their idol. For them, it was as much about the nostalgia of the Mandrell years as it was about the tangible connection to a star who had defined a genre. But the challenges of managing such a large property and its public-facing nature soon became apparent. The upkeep of Fontanelle, both in terms of financial costs and the manpower required to maintain it, began to place significant strain on those involved. As Nashville continued to grow and evolve as a tourist destination, the allure of the mansion started to fade. Visitors, increasingly seeking new newer, more interactive experiences turned their attention elsewhere. For years, Fontanelle had held its place as one of Nashville's top attractions, but by 2019, the decision was made to close its doors to the public for good. The closure marked the end of an era, a symbolic farewell to a time when the mansion was a living testament to Barbara Mandrell's legacy. Ken Dudney, in a heartfelt statement to the Nashville scene, expressed the bittersweet nature of the decision. Fontanelle was never meant to be a public institution. It was meant to be our home, he shared. When we moved, we were sad to leave, but we knew that it was the right time. We've moved on to other things, and we want the mansion to find its own place in history. For Barbara, the decision was equally personal. On NBC's Today Show, she explained, "Fontanelle was a great chapter in our lives, but there comes a point when you have to let go and allow new chapters to unfold. The house was built on love, music, and family, but it's time for it to be a part of history, not our daily lives." It was a poignant moment, reflecting the emotional attachment the family had to the property, but also their understanding that moving forward was necessary for both their personal lives and the future of the mansion itself. The closure of Fontanelle wasn't just a family decision. It echoed the larger changes in Nashville's tourism scene. The city's music culture had shifted, with newer country stars rising to prominence and attracting fresh waves of tourists. The once thriving cultural hotspot that Fontanelle had represented was now overshadowed by the demands of a more modern, interactive entertainment landscape. Local media outlets like WPLN and The Tennessean covered the closure extensively, capturing the disappointment felt by many. For the local community and fans of country music, Fontanelle had become more than just a tourist destination. It had been a place where they could connect with the past, a physical manifestation of the music that had shaped the city. As one local tour guide shared in an interview with WPLN, "For years, this place has been a home to fans of country music. For many, it was the closest they could get to understanding the lives of their idols. Now, with the doors closing, it's like they're losing a friend." When the last tours came to an end and the gates were closed, there was a quiet finality to the moment. The mansion that had once been alive with music, laughter, and visitors now stood still, but its legacy endured. Even without the crowds and the tours, Fontanelle remained a symbol of the Mandrell family's indelible impact on Nashville's cultural landscape. Did the end of Fontanelle's chapter play a role in shaping Barbara Mandrell's impressive net worth? Let us tell you, legacy and net worth. Barbara Mandrell's incredible journey in the entertainment world didn't just elevate her as a star, but also as an astute businesswoman. By 2024, her net worth had reached an impressive $55 million, a testament not only to her musical success, but also to her savvy investments and strategic career moves. While her unforgettable voice and stage presence made her a household name in country music, it was her ability to capitalize on her fame through various ventures that truly secured her financial legacy. From the beginning of her career, Mandrell understood the power of diversification. Beyond chart-topping hits and sold-out tours, she ventured into television with the critically acclaimed show Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters. The show, which ran from 1980 to 1982, offered her the chance to showcase her musical talents, but it also allowed her to tap into a wider audience, showcasing her humor, warmth, and charisma. Her TV success opened up additional opportunities in acting, leading to appearances on iconic shows like The Rockford Files and Touched by an Angel. These ventures played a significant role in building her public persona beyond just being a country music artist. She was seen as a versatile performer, capable of thriving in multiple entertainment arenas. In interviews, Mandrell reflected on her approach to maintaining her brand and how the country music industry, in particular, presented opportunities for artists to diversify their revenue streams, which she skillfully leveraged. She explained in an interview with Billboard, "It's not just about the music anymore. It's about being able to build something that lasts." Mandrell's net worth wasn't built on music alone. She made strategic business moves that ensured financial stability long after the spotlight faded. Real estate investments, brand collaborations, and appearances at select public and charity events kept her income flowing steadily. Even after retiring from active performances, she enjoyed a lavish lifestyle, thanks to wise investments and diversified ventures. Far from being a passive investor, Barbara was deeply involved in managing her brand. In a 2009 interview with Country Weekly, she revealed how she balanced her career with family life and involved loved ones in key decisions. This hands-on approach approach helped her secure a stable financial future rooted in foresight and discipline. What set her apart, however, was her long-term mindset. While many artists rode the wave of temporary fame, Mandrell planned for longevity. In a candid interview with Variety, she said, "Being a musician is part of who I am, but I wanted to build something that would last long after I stopped touring." That vision allowed her to transition from star performer to savvy businesswoman. She also understood the value of public image. Mandrell maintained a positive, grounded persona, which translated into endorsement deals and partnerships beyond her music. Her brand remained strong, even in semi-retirement. Her fortune reflects not only her talent, but her business acumen and forward-thinking approach. She didn't just survive in the entertainment industry, she mastered it. Her legacy lives on not just through her music, but also in the financial empire she built through strategic, smart decisions. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. And make sure to click on the cards for more exciting celebrity tales and all the Hollywood updates you won't want to miss.